This section we'll talk about the steels. The steel, which is basically a rod, is primarily a Western invention. The original steels were invented some 250 odd years ago, and basically there were a series of grooves that ran along down of a rod, and as you run your blade across the grooves, each of those grooves acted like a little blade and sheared off anything that had rolled over. You couldn't really sharpen a knife on it, all you could do was to re-hone on it, which is why you saw a butcher or a fishmonger in between every cut, he would just re-hone his knife very, very quickly. They used to use a lot of speed and holding the steel like that, doing this. It generates a lot of inaccuracy. It's no longer necessary. Today we're in 2012 and we really don't need to use speed. We've got materials that are kind of taking care of the energy that we expended by being more efficient in themselves. So I think that most people have heard of a diamond coated steel. Now generally Japanese knife makers, Japanese knife sellers really don't recommend the use of steels. And I can understand their point of view, but we're not Japanese and we're not working in a Japanese kitchen. We're in a European environment. In particular, in a professional environment, if a chef goes to his chef, his head chef in the middle of the service and says, "Chef, I need to just sharpen my knife or something's gone wrong," in Japan, he would probably be allowed to go and do it without question, though it probably wouldn't occur anyway because he'd have his knife maintained in the first place. But if it did, it wouldn't be a problem. In the European kitchen, I think it would be much harder. I think if a chef went along to sometimes the Ramsey and said, "Listen, I'm just going to take 5 minutes to go and sharpen my knife in the middle of the service," he'd probably get whacked on the head with a frying pan. So it's necessary sometimes just to use the steel just to get that little bit of edge back. So as an example, look, here, I'm cutting with this knife and it's cutting, but it's taking 3 or 4 strokes before it actually cuts. Okay, now this to me in a fine dining kitchen or somebody who's got a very fine knife just needs a little tiny rehome. So here I've got my diamond steel, I'm going to put it on there, I'm going to apply the blade, give it an angle, work right from the back of the steel to the front. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's all that I need to do, and now I've got a knife which cuts literally on the touch. Okay? So the steel is a necessary piece of equipment in a Western kitchen. So maybe both the steel and the stone is actually the way forward. So here we've got a series of the steel that we offer at JKC. Our entry-level steel rod. It's short. It's quite narrow, it's fine for domestic use. If you're not sharpening very often, you don't need to spend a massive amount of money on it. And this steel is very, very efficient. It's what we call a medium grade, which means that it takes the steel off quite quickly. So use it judiciously if you buy the steel. Don't overwork the blade. Just a few gentle strokes like I did at the beginning of this video section. Going up from that one basic steel there is our first of our sort of professional range steels, if you like. These have a very, very heavy 11 micron coating on them, so they last for a long time. This is a medium one. It's quite long, it's much longer than that 22-pound steel there. It's got a wider surface as well. So what I normally do is I use the right-hand side to sharpen the right-hand side of the blade. So from there, this is the right side, this is the right side, so they go together and work that way. And this is the left side, and this is the left side of the blade, so we're going to work on the left side there. It means that a larger percentage of your blade is touching the steel at the same time, and so it means you have to work less in order to get the same result. If I maintain my knife very, very regularly on a stone, and I'm only going to use the steel for that tiny bit of extra sharpness that I can get, or tickling it as we call it, I would probably use a very fine ceramic diamond coated steel like this one here. The difference between this one and this one is that whilst this one has a slightly more abrasive surface, this is much smoother, so it's taking less steel, it's cutting less, and so you can use it a little bit more frequently without losing too much of the depth of the edge. And if you want to go the whole hog, here we've got a very wide steel. This is almost working like a stone, really. A very fine one, put it on its edge, run it, and you've got a very, very large surface where you can break into it. So again, even more efficient and even finer in scripts. Then after that we've got the same steel as this but with grooves in it, so that it's acting both as a shearing mechanism to take away any roll and then polishing it off with a very, very fine grains at the end of the diamond. Again, you'll find this on the steel section of the website pages. And then we've got the ceramic steels. The ceramic steels are a relatively new introduction to the world of sharpening. They've come into use for over the last about 15 years or so. The ceramic that's used for sharpening steels is not the same as the ceramic that's used for making knives. The ceramic that's used for making knives is zirconium ceramic. This is alumina ceramic. Basically, the other one is fake diamond, this is fake sapphires, this is a bit softer. It gives you an even finer finish than the diamond steels, and it takes less metal away, so your blades will last longer. The issue at the moment with ceramic steels, and it's used a lot by professional chefs, is that if you drop it, there is a chance it will break. So if you're a careful user, it's a really good method of sharpening, and it's very, very gentle on the edge. And in fact, it's the only kind of steel that is actually made in Japan by some Japanese manufacturers. Here we've got, in JKC, we sell two ceramic types of steels. The white ceramic is very, very fine. For somebody who just literally 3 or 4 strokes, gentle strokes, brings the blade back up into sharpness. For somebody who perhaps doesn't do it quite as frequently and who needs a little bit more aggression in order to get the same result, the blue premium ceramic, which has a slightly rougher surface. So the blue one, if you don't sharpen very, very regularly, and the white one, if you sharpen very regularly.